So now we just get to chit chat about 5D relationships, because 5D, as I have been trying to make sure, involve people who use their emotional body. They don't need to know about spirituality topics, but if they're mystics and in the Claire community, then they will know about spirituality and spiritual, and I integrate those aspects. But we use the scientific methodology, and although I'm woo-woo lady and pseudoscience lady, because of course I'm using different pieces of information, bringing to you something that allows any person who wants to navigate their 5D relationships like an adult. But because the mystic plane is one that is quite intriguing, might I add, and quite philosophical, right? The ability to share what it is to be a secure person. So again, your nervous system and your brain, embodied brain. No person that is a mystic seems to understand that you can't block your spirituality process, your spirituality awakening. That's because they don't translate that word spiritual or spirituality process to it's you being a human. And this heart body, it's your actual ability to stay clear in your conscious, the way the good trauma-informed experts will talk about as well. Which is why, again, Terry Real is one of the great ones that I've mentioned so far, because he helps people in relationships to use, as his video talks about this feedback wheel, to use a mindful relationship approach. And he spells out that the wise adult is only in the prefrontal cortex. So when you get 4D mystics and they're reading to you energy, for example, because they haven't grown up their basic emotions yet, and so he also talks about basic 7 primary emotions, which are different than the 6 that I've mentioned before, but we're going to use what he shares because he's talking in relationship. When you're expressing how you feel, you will use feelings that are primary. So joy, pain, anger, fear, shame, guilt, and love. And when you're actually able to take a look at what feelings you usually lead with, he says you want to give room to the other feelings. And it made me think, oh, that's right, I was going to share a story in the other channeled guidance. See, I told you I'd leave you hanging with something. Let me think, which one was it? Oh, shoot. I can't remember. I was going to share a story. Okay, any of you who listens to the channel guidance, if I remember what it is, it'll probably be on tomorrow's podcast. That's how I'm going to leave it, or I might make a short. But anyways, and that's how it works with Maria's podcasts, all of them. Just, again, write me and remind me what I was talking about, and maybe I'll be able to fill in the blank. Maybe I won't. That's all I'm going to say. And on that note, the primary feelings, he says, use the opposite that you're used to. So I, for example, don't get angry. I get sad. But I understand what he's saying, because if you haven't matured all of those emotions, it means you haven't allowed yourself to express all of me. So all of us have emotions that can stay in a adaptive child, so they charge. And so he helps people to understand how to become whole. And since trauma is relational, as he points out, but intimacy is the core, expressing your feelings in the relationship conversation is important. Okay, but only if your agenda is to repair, which is only if you're an adult. And the 4D collective, they're not adults when they're like, oh, here's my reading of the day. The karmic made him do this. Their friends made him do that. Oh, they're excogitating a plan against you right now. They're all with their little magic wands. And you know, the other part is, it's sad to say, I've seen people do this. So TikTok, I love TikTok. Please, by the way, know I love TikTok and YouTube. They are both equally valuable and in different ways, and I do not like in any way, shape, or form other platforms, which I will not mention because it's better not to. But there are some that I totally don't like at all. Not for any of the reasons that the trending topic people don't like shit for, and that's because, you know, teenagers, they always want to do what's trending. They don't know how to own their quirkiness with like, yeah, I'm imperfect and flawed, so what do you want? You know why we can own it like this? Because we actually don't care. Like in our body. I'll never forget when I watched this sociologist say, anybody who says they don't care, they're lying. It's like, you don't know all the people in the world. You actually don't even know that some of us have what's called true self-worth, because I'm not superior or inferior to you, so you may have all the degrees you want. I don't feel less than, above. You're not on any pedestal, no, nor is any subject matter expert. Don't matter who it is, what it is. See, here's where it differentiated itself. My mother told me this story, so I'll share it. She says, when she introduced to me the word of respect and how to respect, I was immediately on board with it. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. The same way, one of my biggest lessons was when I figured out that I was being a bit bossy, and not a bit, a lot bossy with my twin sister. And I was basically with my whole family, very imposing. And I was like, you know what? You don't listen to anybody. This is hypocrisy. What do you think? They're going to listen to you? They shouldn't listen to you. So it's called learning that we all are imperfect, and it's okay. And that's why we don't have shame or guilt. The guilt part is because we actually consciously choose what we're going to do. So if somebody's feelings are hurt, we're going to say we're sorry. And then we're going to probably not play with them ever again. Because usually they're creating, thank you, Terry Real, a story of their own. And as he says, we all make up stories. So when he's talking in this video, again, go look it up, how to complain effectively and get what you want. It's on YouTube. It's a great one for anybody who wants to. I don't want to get what I want from anybody, so I didn't like the title, but I know that he's a therapist who helps people in relationships in a good way. So that's why I watched it, but I don't actually think you're complaining either. So as he points out, we create stories. So if you come into the house and you're pissy, and I'm like, oh my God, your pissiness just hurt my feelings because, yeah. Okay, so I know some people take this seriously, and I am so sorry that you don't understand what it means to be an emotional body that is mature yet, because the reality is, as even Patrick Tiahan points out, there's transference, and this is transference, even though it might look like, oh, but you need to fulfill that. Those are codependent type relationships. Anybody who wants them, there's plenty of people who will support you on that journey. It is not a 5D collective group. We don't do oh, you hurt my feelings. We understand what Terry Real just said, which is your relationship to that thing, which is why it's subjective, which is why I'm not going to go making you out to be the bad guy. You didn't open the door for me. That makes you the most horrible human being on the face of this planet. So we all have a story. Every person that is an adoptive child, they have so many stories. It's not even funny how many stories I've heard people have. You know what I like the most is when they're like, I told you they'd come back to me. And the inconsistent narrative is they went back to them, not the other way around. But, how do you tell an adult, I thought you said you went because you're in a pretty shitty position right now, but and knew they would come back? Maybe you want to rephrase that. So, anyways, basic feelings. We all have them. The grown-ups know how to speak about them without being like, oh my gosh, no, I know I have a subjective experience with you. This is the whole point. I know I have a body, a brain. I'm going to think things, which is why I won't be like, I'm going to shame you. I'm going to guilt you. So people who have guilt, it's because they actually don't use their prefrontal cortex. So when they go into an agenda for a convo, they're going to want to have, what is it? Terry Real gives us this. They're not there to repair. No, they're not there to repair. Very unfortunate with adoptive children, they do. They basically try to maintain power and control because they're in a trauma safety behavior response. It's very sad, again, because they will say things that they don't mean, and they will do things that they don't mean. And none of us like that, so I can't find my notes, but I've read it to you enough times to say we don't be like, oh, you weaponized words. No, you are actually inconsistent in your narrative. And emotionally speaking, you're not taking any accountability, any ownership. You seem really like you don't know what you're doing. So at the end of the day, 4 is important. So 1, you talk about what happened. 2, it's a subjective experience. 3, you talk about feelings for real. And 4, you actually look to repair. You share what can be done so that we can now both be in a space of I'm okay with you. So that's where it's personal, obviously. But as he says, it's not tomorrow. It's not in freaking 10 years. It's now. And then you own it. And you can be happy that you did good on your end. You got, as he says, on top of your relational integrity. And it's not about how it goes after that. That's why the 5 is letting it go. So once you've done your bit to say, here's what I would like for us to keep moving forward, you let it go. A person gets to choose. And that's why you can't fuck up a relationship by telling somebody how you feel, which is why the whole twin flame saga ain't a saga for us. Our relationships are always expanding. when you use your prefrontal cortex as an adult. That's the 5D Collective. We talk about emotional body, mindful relationships, and more. So tune in and become a paid subscriber if you want some of that content as well. Have a great day.